So we're going to fly over and through the Vhembe TVET college campuses located in the Vhembe district in the Limpopo province. But I just want to spend a minute talking about the picture we've got in front of us before we fly in. You've got the classic Limpopo owl, which you can see, and we have all the Vhembe campuses really on the left ear of the owl. That is the Soutpansberg, which we'll come to just now. But if you look above that, high above that, you can see Zimbabwe. And running right through the middle of Zimbabwe is the Great Dike, which is a very similar phenomenon to what's happened in the Limpopo province, where you have ancient rock which eventually got cracked through the middle by a rich igneous rock, and that's where all the Zimbabwe mines are. But the other reason I want to talk about this zone is this is where the great Bantu migration, which came all the way from Western Africa, and this is one of the great settlement places of the Bantu people initially. Over 1,000 years ago, they were staying in this area in a place called Mapangubwe, and eventually when that place faltered and eventually broke away, that's when the great Zimbabwe kingdom was set up, and also when the various assorted chiefs and peoples set themselves up in the Soutpansberg in various assorted ways. And that's the part of the story we'd like to tell. And then obviously you can see Mozambique on the right hand side with the very natural harbour of Delagoa Bay. And this was where massive amounts of trade has happened historically over thousands of years with China and India and up into Arabia. So it really is a place of rich, complex history. So don't ever, when you think about the Vhembe district, and we're going to talk sometimes about the Venda kingdom, don't think about them as somehow one race of people who are living in an area. It was never like that. It's a complex set of groups living together in continuous meeting together and struggle. And we're going to fly straight into the early Venda kingdom, situated at a place called Dazata. This is where the great Mikado and the great Tohanyando lived and survived. Now we at the Mavoy campus, and the Mavoy campus actually was the old Finyawanda Technical Campus, and it did things like the NCV, Office Administration, IT, Electrical and Civil Engineering. It offers NATED programs in Civil Engineering, Business Studies, and so it's a worthwhile campus set in the heartland of the old Venda empire and kingdom, and I'll talk to that a bit later. But to give you a sense of just how rich this place is, you can see the old Dazata Museum and kraal, which is where the kings lived on the left-hand side. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to fly over the hill to Lake Fundudzi. Now this is a lake of enormous cultural importance to the Venda people. It's a place where the Domba ritual happens for the maidens, and it's a place of the great white serpent. So it's a fertility place. It's a fertility set of rituals which happen over there. Later on you'll hear about how the Domba became a central part of trying to set up community education in this area. Now we're flying to the Tengwe campus, and this is the old Tengwe High School. And this campus also offers the NCV, also in business and office administration. It's got civil engineering and plumbing. It's got farm management and clothing production and lots of learnerships, because initially that's what it was set up to do. It was set up to offer a bunch of learnerships, and it's now graduated from a kind of like a satellite campus to a fully fledged campus. And what you can see as we kind of travel over this area and circle the campus is that the Vhembe district is basically comprised of very poor, number one, but also number two, very young people. So over 75% of the population is 35 years and under. A whole lot of them, over 50% of the youth, are unemployed. That's 98.7% black. Right, with about only Louis Trichardt being the place which is kind of white. We've just kind of pulled back so you can see the Kruger National Park, and then we're going to fly now into the Shingwedzi campus. And this is the old College of Education, and it's been restored lately. The residences have been restored, so it's now fairly much more state of the art than it used to be. And you can see how nice the campus actually looks. It offers the NCV in business and engineering. In terms of the NATED, it offers financial management, business management. It's got civil and mechanical engineering. So It's another campus which offers most of the NCV and NATED programs in the engineering and management or business studies components. Now, as we pull back over the Shingwedzi campus, I want to pull back a little bit further this time just to give you a sense of the full spread of what we're working with. And you can see the Luvulu River and Dam on the one side, and then we're going to go across to the Makwerela campus, and that's in Thohoyandou, the district capital, named after one of the first great Venda chiefs who managed to establish a massive sphere of influence all the way from the Limpopo to the Crocodile River. Now, this Makwerela campus is one of the first campuses in the area. It was the first technical college set up in 1963, and really it has a great residence system. It offers a whole range of NCV and NATED courses. It's situated in the area of Sabasa, and that's an area of proud struggle and the attempt to create community education against the missionaries and the state. And there's a whole bunch of schools over here, like Mapapuli High School, which is named after the attempt to rather set up an academic education, but an academic education which was still traditional at heart. And they were partly successful in this struggle. And it's a really key question we have to ask ourselves within the tvet space. Is, do we just provide an education which is the NCV and the NATED courses for everyone and anyone? Or do we start to try and really identify what the community needs and set up programs for the community inside the community? And as we go through the course and the videos, we'll talk to that issue more and more, especially when we're in a situation where after students get a tvet qualification, often they can't find work anyway. So we just pulled back from the central office, which is also in the area of Sabasa, and let's pull back quite hard and quite far so we can get a sense of the Soutpansberg in the distance. And what we're going to do now is we're going to fly over to the Tishimani campus. Now that was the original missionary campus, which got set up by the missionaries, and the community colleges were set up against these mission schools. And this was the first teachers' college in the area, and that's what caused a lot of struggle, because the teachers had to go to the missionary setup space to become teachers rather than the community space, which was trying to hold onto the rituals like the Domba rituals for the girls. Now, that said, this Tishisimani campus is a very popular campus. It's the second biggest campus now. It was really started up in 2011, and it offers the full set of NCV and NATED across engineering, marketing, finance, office administration, and tourism. And let's pull right back and get a sense of the vhembe area. So you can see the Mavoy campus, where we went to firstly, and you can see the Makwerela campus, which is located in the capital. And we're going to go to the Mashamba campus now, but let's pull back so you can actually see on the one side, on the left, you'll see Palabowa below you, which has got the Mopani Southwest TVET colleges. And you'll see the Letaba River, the Groot Letaba River, running off to your left. We're just going past it now, and that offers you the Letaba colleges. So the vhembe colleges are located in this area around the Soutpansberg. And now we're going to the Mashamba campus. Now this is actually more of an agricultural campus. It was set up in the early 2000s. And this one offers primary agriculture, farming management, and it also offers a little bit of travel tourism and office administration. And there's been a real struggle in terms of subsistence agriculture in this area. It's incredibly poor, especially with the old Leboa homelands being in this area and the compression of people here. And subsistence farming, which was the stock way to do things, has started to become increasingly hard to do. And on top of that, this area really is drought prone. It goes through periods of some rain and then drought and rain and drought. So it's quite hard. Now I'm going to pull back. As we move through, we're going to now go to the Louis Trichardt campus. And the way I want to pull back is I want to pull back over the historical locations which are located right near Louis Trichardt, because this is at the center of the struggle. Because what happened was when the Boers and the British started to defeat the chiefs, they forced them into these locations to live together in these areas, still named after some of the chiefs like Haravela. And what we're now doing is we're flying into Louis Trichardt. You can see we're flying over what the Afrikaners call the Hangklip mountain, but actually it's really the Songozwi and the Luatama mountains. That's what they should be known as. And that is where the Venda kings set up their second capital, because they could see the whole area from that and know what was going on. Now we're going into Louis Trichardt, to the hospitality campus. Louis Trichardt was an old trekker who moved through this area, and there's been enormous controversy over whether it should be called Louis Trichardt or Mikado. Now Mikado was the last standing kingdom against the British and the Boers. He managed to last all the way through the 1800s. In fact, he was poisoned with brandy, and it was his son who was defeated. And what's happened is there's a real big struggle over whether that place should be called Mikado or Louis Trichardt. Personally, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it should be called Mikado, but certainly the Afrikaners, who make up 1% of the population of the vhembe district, felt strongly that it should be called Louis Trichardt. Now we're pulling right back across the other side, because I now want to visit the Musina campus. But before we do that, I want to kind of track the Limpopo River and the Shashe River, which you can see on the left, because at the center where those two rivers meet is the ancient civilization of Mapangubwe and K2. And we're going to go fly right over the kopje where it was situated. This was a class-based society where you had the chief at the top of the hill, and then various assorted other people, nobility, and then the workers as you move down. And on the one side, you can feel quite uncomfortable about it being a very unequal society, where the food used to be carried up to the kings, and the rich ate gorgeous food and the poor ate terrible food, as they've done from the excavations, yeah. But the key thing is it also started to set up a very strong division of labor. Because they had enough crops, and because they were working with livestock, and because they actually had mastered how to work with iron and other skills, what happened was it became a highly developed society. And we have to ask this question as we move into the tvet history and sociology of the relationship between, on the one side, inequality, and on the other side, between the division of labor and the development of skills. So it's going to be a central question, and we'll use the Mapangubwe example to try and think that through. But we also have to recognize the fact that long before the Boers and the British came here, there were ancient civilizations already in the Iron Age, already doing all sorts of division of labor work, already setting themselves up in all sorts of ways which we should be proud of and we should know about. And that's why currently, it's in I think it's the grade 3 or grade 4 curriculum. All I knew about was the Great Trek. And we're now coming up to the famous, some would say infamous, Bight Bridge with its border economies. The first bridge was built in 1929. Look, it's like 1/2 kilometer long, so it's a huge engineering feat. It now only takes rail traffic, actually. The other bridge was built in 1995. So you actually have two bridges crossing the river at the moment, and you have these border economies which have started up. So the truck drivers actually like to hang out there. They make use of the sex workers over there. They often get their trucks fixed, or they spend some time eating and sleeping and recovering before they carry on with their trips. You also have informal traders trying to get across and get goods which are short in Zimbabwe from South Africa. So lots of informal and formal trading going on over there. And right near Bight Bridge is the border town of Musina, struggling and benefiting from all the border industries going on. But more importantly, it's a major mining town with one of the richest historical copper mines in South Africa. And it's actually named after the Musina people who were located here. And they were iron workers. And Musina means something like struggle, difficulty, trying to get something out. Because the guys were struggling to get at the iron, and the copper was almost like a waste product at a certain stage, because iron was much harder. And what happened was eventually a white prospector came to the area, identified the richness of the copper, and bought up all the farms and set up one of the richest companies in the area. It was known as the Musina Transvaal Development Company. So there's been copper mining going on here for 70 years. But that's the white mining where the ore was extracted and used for capitalist profits and investor profit. Every single place where the mines were dropped, the new mines, they found old shafts where historically people had been working the iron and the copper here for thousands of years. you saw the black suburbs on the one side and the white suburbs on the other side. It really does speak to the old apartheid past, and all the towns in this area were historically incredibly conservative when the whites had ownership over it. Now, this is a new campus. It's just being built. And it's going to be an engineering campus. So it's going to offer chemical, civil, electrical, and mechanical engineering. And it's part of the new drive of DHET to try and make sure that they set up new campuses which are centers of specialization, which really enable the TVET colleges to focus on something, do the apprenticeship line properly, make sure that not only skills are learned, but also that there's extended work integrated learning, so that when these guys get their qualification, they don't just have a piece of paper, they've actually got the skills. Now we're pulling right out. I want this dramatic pull out because we're trying to see the Soutpansberg at the moment. And there you can see it. You can see how all the colleges are located in the Soutpansberg area. And we're now going over the Limpopo Basin, where there's this massive struggle for water because you've got all the countries around you trying to get water from the Limpopo River. And as we pull through the Limpopo River, I want to pull out over the old Delagoa Bay and the old Gaza Kingdom, because that's where the slave trade and the ivory was traded for thousands of years, just to give you a sense that this vhembe tvet college has got a long history of people working here, of people being in the mines, of people working in agriculture, of people being entrepreneurial, making plans and decisions about how to negotiate a complex multidimensional space where people have trekked all the way from Western Africa to make a life here, where people have dealt with people coming through from China and India and all the way from Arabia to trade, so that you don't just think of the vhembe tvet colleges as the vendor people who lived in a homeland who are very poor and now have some tvet colleges in the area. It's a far more complex, interesting story than that.